For over a century, Machu Picchu has captivated the world as one of humanity's greatest architectural achievements. But what if everything we know about this ancient citadel is only half the story? What if the real mystery isn't what stands above ground, but what's been hidden beneath it all along? Recent discoveries using cutting-edge technology have revealed something extraordinary beneath Machu Picchu's sacred stones, something that challenges everything historians thought they knew. And the most shocking part? Much of this evidence has been deliberately kept from the public eye. This is the story of what scientists found beneath Machu Picchu, and why it has researchers questioning the very foundations of ancient American history. But before we dive into the hidden chambers and suppressed evidence, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss the discoveries they don't want you to know about. The first signs beneath the stones. The year is 1911. Hiram Bingham stands before the mist-shrouded ruins of Machu Picchu for the first time. The official narrative tells us this Inca citadel was built around 1450 AD during the reign of Emperor Pachacuti. It's a story that's been taught in textbooks for generations. But even in those early days, something didn't add up. While surveying the Temple of the Sun, Bingham and his team noticed peculiarities in the lower stonework, gaps between massive blocks, unusual echoes when they tapped certain walls. The explorers began to suspect that underground chambers existed beneath the visible structures. During the first comprehensive surveys, local guides shared rumors that had been passed down through generations, stories of sealed burial chambers deep beneath the terraces, tales of caves that had been deliberately blocked off by ancient builders. These weren't just legends. They were consistent across multiple, independent sources. As excavations continued, scientists began asking an uncomfortable question. Why would the Inca build such elaborate terracing and drainage systems if there wasn't something beneath that needed protecting? The engineering seemed almost defensive. By the 1920s, a radical idea was taking shape among some researchers. What if Machu Picchu's most important secrets weren't in its spectacular temples and plazas? What if the real story was underground, waiting to be discovered? But as we'll see, those who tried to dig deeper would face obstacles far more formidable than stone and earth. Between 1912 and 1915, Hiram Bingham's expeditions removed over 46,000 artifacts from Machu Picchu. Ceramics, tools, textiles, bones, all meticulously catalogued and shipped to Yale University for study. At least that was supposed to be the plan. But here's where the story takes a disturbing turn. According to shipping manifests recently uncovered by researchers, 3 wooden crates from the 1914 excavation were separated from the main collection. These crates bore no catalog numbers, no inventory lists, no photographs of their contents before they were sealed and shipped. While the majority of artifacts were eventually documented and later returned to Peru after a lengthy legal battle, these 3 crates never made the journey back. In fact, they seem to have vanished entirely from official records. When Peruvian officials requested a complete inventory in the 1980s, Yale's response was telling. They provided documentation for thousands of artifacts, but made no mention of these unmarked crates. When pressed, university administrators claimed no records existed of any separated materials. But former archive assistants tell a different story. In confidential interviews conducted in the early 2000s, 2 retired staff members recalled seeing restricted crates in Yale's Peabody Museum basement. Crates marked with expedition dates matching the missing shipments from Machu Picchu. So what was in those crates? And why were they treated so differently from everything else? Some researchers believe these containers held something discovered in the underground sections of Machu Picchu, something that didn't fit the established narrative of Inca civilization, something anomalous enough to require immediate separation and permanent restriction. The official silence surrounding these missing artifacts raises a crucial question. What could have been so significant that it needed to be hidden for over a century? Early scientific alarms, discoveries that vanished. In 1913, workers excavating the lowest agricultural terrace at Machu Picchu made an unusual discovery. Buried beneath several feet of accumulated soil and debris, they found a collection of metal tools unlike anything else recovered from the site. The tools were sophisticated, far more refined than typical Inca bronze implements. But it wasn't just their craftsmanship that caught researchers' attention. It was the material itself. Initial field analysis showed the metal composition didn't match known Inca metallurgy. The alloy had properties that shouldn't have been possible with documented Inca smelting techniques. The tools showed no signs of the impurities typically found in pre-Columbian metalwork. Recognizing the significance, Bingham assigned the tools to a Yale metallurgist for comprehensive analysis. The scientist was given full access to the university's laboratory facilities and told to spare no expense in determining the exact composition and origin of the artifacts. 3 months later, the metallurgist submitted his findings in a detailed report. The document was filed in Yale's expedition archives, and that's where the trail goes cold. When researchers tried to access this metallurgical report decades later, they were told it couldn't be located. The specific catalog number exists in the archive index, but the physical report is missing. Requests to review the actual tools for modern analysis have been repeatedly denied on the grounds that they're too fragile for handling, despite the fact that these were metal implements designed for hard labor. Even more puzzling, the metallurgist who performed the original analysis never published his findings. In fact, he never mentioned the Machu Picchu tools in any of his subsequent academic work. For a scientist who published prolifically throughout his career, this silence is deafening. What could those tools have revealed that warranted such permanent suppression? And why did scientific curiosity, the driving force of archaeology, suddenly give way to institutional silence? The pattern was just beginning. Beneath the surface, technology reveals the impossible fast forward to 2010. Modern technology has given archaeologists tools that early explorers could never have imagined. Ground-penetrating radar can see through solid rock. LiDAR can map entire landscapes beneath jungle canopy. These non-invasive techniques have revolutionized archaeology around the world. A team of French and Peruvian scientists proposed using ground-penetrating radar to survey beneath Machu Picchu's most sacred structures, particularly the Temple of the Sun. Their goal was simple: create a comprehensive map of what lies beneath the surface without disturbing the site. The Peruvian government initially approved the project. Equipment was brought to the site. Initial scans began in the terraced areas surrounding the temple complex. Within days, the radar detected something extraordinary. Multiple voids existed beneath the Temple of the Sun. Not natural cave formations, but geometrically precise chambers with straight walls and right angles. The radar signatures were consistent with artificial structures, human-made spaces deliberately carved out or constructed beneath the visible ruins. The chambers appeared to connect to a network of passages running beneath the main plaza. Some of these spaces were substantial, large enough to contain rooms or halls. The geometric precision suggested advanced engineering, careful planning, and significant effort. The research team immediately requested permission to expand their survey and conduct more detailed scanning. They proposed using additional non-invasive techniques to create 3D models of the underground structures. They emphasized that no excavation would be required, only observation. The response was swift and final. Permission denied. No explanation was provided. The equipment was removed from the site. When the team asked to review the data they'd already collected, they were informed that all ground-penetrating radar recordings had been confiscated by site authorities and classified as protected archaeological data. The scientists were told that what lies beneath Machu Picchu would remain officially untouched. Their research permits were revoked. Attempts to publish their preliminary findings were blocked by governmental review processes. To this day, those chambers detected in 2010 remain unexplored, unmapped, and officially unacknowledged. The question isn't whether something exists beneath the Temple of the Sun. The radar proves it does. The question is, what's down there that authorities don't want discovered? The timeline breaks. Geological findings shock researchers. While some scientists focused on what lies beneath Machu Picchu, others began examining what's visible above ground with fresh eyes, and what they found challenged the entire accepted chronology. In 2015, a team of geologists was studying erosion patterns on Machu Picchu's lower stone terraces. They were analyzing how water weathering affects different types of rock in the Andean climate. What started as a routine geological survey turned into something that made several researchers question their own findings. The erosion patterns on the lowest level of stonework showed extreme water weathering, far more than would be expected from 6 centuries of exposure. The scientists ran multiple tests, analyzing striations, mineral deposits, and surface degradation. Their calculations suggested these stones had been exposed to the elements for thousands of years, not hundreds. If the official timeline was correct, the lower terraces should show erosion, consistent with construction around 1450 AD. Instead, the geological evidence indicated these stones predated the Inca civilization by centuries, possibly millennia. Even more intriguing, the erosion patterns weren't uniform across the entire site. The upper structures showed significantly less weathering, consistent with much more recent construction. It was as if Machu Picchu had been built in distinct phases, with the oldest sections at the foundation and progressively newer construction on top. This suggested something extraordinary. The Inca didn't build Machu Picchu from scratch. They built on top of something that already existed, something much, much older. The implications were staggering. If confirmed, it would mean that an advanced civilization capable of megalithic construction existed in the Andes thousands of years before the Inca Empire. It would rewrite not just Peruvian history, but our entire understanding of ancient American civilizations. The geological team prepared to publish their findings in a peer-reviewed journal. They anticipated controversy, but felt confident in their methodology and data. The evidence was solid, the analysis rigorous. Their paper was rejected, not because of faulty science or questionable methods. The rejection letters cited chronological conflict with established historical consensus. The data wasn't wrong. It just contradicted what historians believed to be true. Several team members attempted to publish in other journals. Same result. The geological evidence was sound, but the historical implications were too disruptive. One editor told them off the record, "Your findings would require rewriting textbooks. That's not going to happen without extraordinary political pressure." The geologists tried presenting their findings at conferences. They were given late-night time slots, minimal promotion, and their sessions were mysteriously underattended despite significant pre-conference interest. The erosion patterns haven't changed. The stones still bear the marks of thousands of years of weathering. The evidence remains there for anyone willing to look. But officially, Machu Picchu is still dated to 1450 AD, and anyone who suggests otherwise faces academic marginalization. Why is the geological evidence being ignored? What's so threatening about the possibility that Machu Picchu is far older than we've been told? Suppressed discoveries. When science is blocked by 2018, the pattern had become impossible to ignore. Multiple research teams, using different methodologies, were reaching similar conclusions. There was more to Machu Picchu than the official narrative acknowledged. Yet every attempt to investigate further hit the same institutional walls. An international consortium of archaeologists proposed using advanced, non-invasive scanning technology, the same techniques that had revealed hidden chambers beneath Egyptian pyramids and Mayan temples. They wanted to create a complete underground map of Machu Picchu using muon tomography, a method that uses cosmic ray particles to image internal structures without any physical intrusion. The technology had proven successful at sites worldwide. It's completely passive, requiring no excavation, no drilling, no physical contact with the site whatsoever. The proposal emphasized that this would preserve the site while advancing scientific knowledge. The Peruvian Ministry of Culture denied permission. The stated reason? Potential disruption to site integrity. When scientists pointed out that the method was entirely non-invasive, the response shifted to concerns about setting precedents and protecting cultural heritage. A pattern had emerged in how research proposals were being handled. Requests to excavate or explore underground areas were denied for being too invasive. Proposals for non-invasive scanning were rejected for being potentially disruptive. Applications to simply review existing data from previous surveys were blocked on grounds of data sensitivity. Attempts to publish findings that contradicted established timelines were stopped by peer review processes that cited historical inconsistency rather than scientific invalidity. It wasn't that research was being evaluated and found lacking. It was that certain types of research simply weren't being permitted at all. Scientists began sharing their experiences at informal gatherings. A pattern emerged. Any investigation that might reveal evidence of pre-Inca civilization at Machu Picchu was systematically blocked. Research that stayed within accepted historical parameters moved forward without issue. One archaeologist, speaking anonymously, put it bluntly: "We're allowed to study how the Inca built Machu Picchu. We're not allowed to question whether they built all of it. There's an invisible line, and if you cross it, your career is over." By 2020, scientific access to Machu Picchu's underground structures had been effectively shut down. No ground-penetrating radar, no muon tomography, no exploratory excavation. The chambers detected in 2010 remain sealed. The anomalous erosion patterns remain unexplained. The missing artifacts remain unaccounted for. The message was clear. Some questions were no longer welcome. Unexplained findings, metal, magnetism, and anomalies. While Machu Picchu itself became increasingly restricted to researchers, investigations continued at related sites throughout the Sacred Valley. What they found only deepened the mystery. In 2016, sealed chambers were discovered near Cusco during restoration work on a colonial-era building. When archaeologists were finally permitted to enter, they found caches of metal tools stored in carefully arranged patterns. Like the implements found on Machu Picchu's lowest terrace a century earlier, these tools didn't match known Inca technology. The metallurgical analysis revealed alloys with trace elements that shouldn't have been present. The smelting temperatures required would have exceeded what Inca furnaces could achieve. Some tools showed evidence of techniques, like work hardening and annealing, that were supposedly unknown in pre-Columbian America. Most puzzling were the tools' purposes. Several implements had no clear function based on known Inca activities. They weren't agricultural tools, weapons, or household implements. They appeared designed for specialized tasks that archaeologists couldn't identify. When researchers requested permission to conduct isotope analysis to determine where the metal ores originated, their proposal was denied. The tools were placed in storage, catalogued as ceremonial objects, and removed from active study. But the strangest findings weren't the tools themselves. They were the locations where they were found. Multiple research teams working at different sites throughout the Sacred Valley began reporting unusual magnetic disturbances near specific sacred stones. Compasses would spin erratically, electronic equipment would malfunction. Digital cameras would experience sudden battery drainage or corrupted image files. In 2017, a geophysics team brought specialized magnetometers to document these anomalies at Sacsayhuaman, the massive stone fortress above Cusco. The instruments recorded magnetic field variations far beyond what natural geological formations would produce. The patterns suggested the presence of metallic or mineral concentrations deep beneath the surface. The team set up video documentation of their readings. 3 cameras recorded simultaneously as the magnetometer swept across a specific section of megalithic wall. All 3 cameras experienced identical failures at the same moment. Their recording files became corrupted at the exact point when the magnetic readings spiked. This happened repeatedly at multiple locations. The pattern was consistent. Approach certain ancient stones with detection equipment, experience equipment malfunction, and data corruption at the moment of peak readings. Backup systems failed. Redundant equipment malfunctioned. Even when researchers used purely mechanical instruments, traditional compasses, and analog meters, the readings showed clear anomalies. The most disturbing incident occurred when a team attempted to use ground-penetrating radar at a restricted section of Sacsayhuaman. The equipment detected a large metallic mass, approximately 30 feet, beneath a cluster of precisely cut megalithic stones. The size and density suggested manufactured metal, not natural ore deposits. Before the team could complete their scan, site authorities arrived and confiscated their equipment. The researchers were told they were operating outside their permitted survey area, despite having written authorization for that exact location. Their data was seized. They were escorted from the site, and their research permits were revoked. When they attempted to file an official complaint, they were informed that their data and footage had been misplaced during processing and could not be returned or reviewed. One of the researchers later retrieved corrupted video files from a backup memory card. The footage shows clear magnetometer readings and then visual distortion, not from equipment failure, but from what appears to be deliberate signal jamming. The timestamp matches the exact moment authorities arrived. What's beneath these sacred stones that produces such strong magnetic anomalies? Why are authorities so determined to prevent documentation of these findings? And what was that metallic mass under Sacsayhuaman that triggered such an aggressive response? The evidence points to something highly unusual and highly protected, lying beneath Peru's most famous ancient sites.